Good morning, CLC. In this moment and at this time, I invite each and every one of you to just take a nice, deep, cleansing breath in, allowing the cool, calming spirit that is love itself to touch you. And as you release the breath, release all that no longer serves you. Allow it to just wash away. Take another nice deep cleansing breath in, breathing in love and light. And as you release this breath, allow your body to just relax in this moment. And allow your mind to be here now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin this inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself up to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your hand, and let my words act as your own for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging this higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of this infinite presence, I simply speak these words. I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply. Filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon that divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. Visualizing that idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words. I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This can be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in the room or on this planet anymore. I turn toward that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present in the room or virtually on this broadcast, and share in confidence and gratitude in saying, I'm grateful for the good in your lives. Mel was about to move the microphone, but I'm doing a poem today, and so I had to be like, no, don't move the microphone. And the title of this poem is Love Buds. I am but a seed, cracked open, exposed, buried in the midst of potential. Black soil surrounding me, blinding me, making it difficult to breathe. But there's a primal light pulsating deeply from within. So I push, evolving with the formation of each secondary and tertiary hair of possibility. I push past limiting thoughts, past the feelings of awkwardness and insecurities about my own relevance. I push, reaching further out, searching deeper within. I push and I push and I push and I push back, down, up, through, pushing, moving, searching, growing, transforming, becoming, pushing to be more of the me that I know in my soul I am meant to be. And as I unfold and uncurl from this cocoon of solitude, embracing the belief that knowledge of my value and worth will unfurl, I hear the liquid air crackle with power. I see golden beams of sun break through and fall upon my embryonic leaves birthed anew. I taste the sweet, salty essence of iridescent dew, a buttery liquid so sweet it unites me to you. You're the new hues that have been surrounding me, like clone visions, all blooming freely, just slightly different than me. Together, We make up this blanketed meadow stretching from here to eternity. Each one of you a unique reflectionary glimpse into my own clarity. We reside in a beautiful oasis, you and me, as diverse and free as we are together, my dear, sweet family. Let's frolic and play in intimate revelry. I feel your essence. Do you feel me? I get it now. There was never darkness nor solitude, only the light of spirit hovering over and commingling through warm, dense earth with remembrance of infinity, binding the you that is you to the me that is me. It's just that my eyes were shut wide, struggling to see through veiled spectacles clouded by self-doubt, fear, loneliness, and longing. But you have always existed, and I am the I am reborn. Flesh upon flesh, fleshed out to be the spawn of perfection. Well, as perfect as I can be. I hear our ancestors singing to me, through me, inviting grace into me, reminding me that my I am that I am has always existed in the time and space between thoughts and words. Words allowing me to get out of my own way and let the greatness that bore me shine forth into this world. I stand in its presence. No expectation, no narration, just the persistent existence of the great I am that I am, transformed into me from a teeny tiny seed. And as the ease of the breeze flows through my leaves, I am reminded that peace emanates from within me to you and back again, as if it is the breath of life itself. This is our moment, me and you, here and now, with the all. We are the all, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end that begins again. My life is enough wherever I am. So whether I stand before you as a reflection of who you are, as a great oak or a little bitty bud, know with me now that both you and I exist as the divine representatives and embodiment of pure, unadulterated love. Thank you.
But I want to wish you a very happy Black History Month. And to me, history, you know, there's economic history and there's political history, and they're all different angles on history. My favorite kind of history is cultural history. History that occurs through music and the arts and performance and the exuberance of the human spirit, and poetry certainly is right at near the top of that list. Well, how do you rate music over poetry over art? It's all an expression. It's all a genre of some kind. I wanted to tell you that at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York right now, the largest exhibition ever of Harlem Renaissance paintings is being mounted. And you can see this. You can see a lot of this, probably not all of it, but you can see a lot of it online. Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. So we gather as one human family, and what we're talking about this month and next and really all year round is the oneness, that there's one life, there's one spirit, there's one presence. And the silly segue that I was going to use off of the Joni Mitchell song that Or is it Judy Collins, or is it both of them? I don't know. Anyway, that Brian just did, and company just did here, was Our Old Friends Acting Strange? Our old friends they may be acting strange because they don't know what kind of spiritual thing you've gotten yourself into. Because here you are, and your conversation has changed, and your reactions are different than they once were. And this can be, and I know this from personal experience, because when I came into this stuff, the people I was running around with, they all kind of stood back and looked at me like I'd had this. And I wasn't really trying to convert them, except when I did. I said some stupid, silly things to people about how they could be different than they are. And you don't want to go around announcing that to people. Say, you could be better than you are. You know, you want to make this about yourself. You want to make it about your own journey. Well, one of my first teachers in Science of Mind said that the Science of Mind teaching is very simple, but it's never simplistic. It's never simplistic, and I like that. And that's kind of where I want to go with this today. And Reverend Lisa will next week, and also the week after. She's going to be speaking for me the next 2 Sundays. I won't be here. I've got some minor medical stuff to get taken care of, and I'm going to do that and then come bouncing back on the 10th of March for you. But again, going through this series, these thoughts here about balance, about this is not a simplistic thing. There are nuances to this teaching, and I want to give you one of the major ones today, one of the major nuances to this teaching, which is this. We affirm, but we also deny. We affirm, but we also deny in our spiritual work. What do we deny? Emma Curtis Hopkins, who was briefly a teacher of Ernest Holmes and a big figure in early New Thought, wrote a book called Scientific Christian Mental Practice that's a fantastic workbook that we've used in many of the classes here and continue to do so. And in there, she actually put the chapter on denials before the chapter on affirmation. She said the first thing you have to do is deny what the culture's told you about sin, sickness, and death. You deny what the culture's told you about necessary and forcible limitation. What the culture has told you. She said, we have been taught since the ground up that there is good that is denied us. There is good that is unavailable to us, that our good exists at a distance from us, that our good is absent from us. And she said, we've been practicing the absence. We've been practicing the absence. You've heard the expression practicing the presence. How do you practice the presence? Well, through meditation and prayer and communion such as we have in a group setting like this. In our quiet time, we practice the presence of God. We feel the presence of God. We feel the presence of, as I prefer to call it, the divine nature, or the I am becoming. We feel the presence of this thing when we move everything else that kind of clutters our minds out of the way. But we practice the absence until we learn to practice the presence. Some of us practice the presence right from the get-go, and nobody knows why. But most of us practice the absence for a very long time before it occurs to us to practice the presence. Now, the presence isn't only found in teachings like this one that call it out by name. It's found in every spiritual teaching. And it's found in things that don't even qualify as teachings because they're spiritual. It's found in every spiritual practice. The presence is, you know. So, I mean, you can believe in a story about the divine nature that has it remote and aloof and all of that, and still want it to be different to you than that, and pray about that for a long enough time that it becomes different to you than that. Does that make sense? In other words, you could fight through your denial and get to the place like you feel, let's say you feel you're sinful. Let's say you feel you're just a rotten human being and cursed by God and all the rest of it, but you're tired of feeling that way. You're tired of feeling that way, so you start thinking about it and feeling about it in a different way, a little bit at a time, you know, as much as you can, and you fight through it, and all of a sudden you realize it's like the sky opens up and there's this sort of benign, divine presence that just loves you up just the way you are and has never not loved you, and you realize it's been there the whole time, and that all the judgment that you held was just your story about it. It was just the judgment that you were taught to hold, you know. because of some, and I got into this, if you want more on this, you can watch last week's thing where I talked about the distinction between spirituality and religion. And I said, maybe it was the week before, I don't know, spirituality is an experience. Religion is a story about the experience. Which would you rather have? Which is more useful to you? The experience or the story about it? Plus, the story passes down some generations in remove from the direct experience. So that, like, somebody had an experience centuries ago, and I'm still feeding off of that. Well, that's kind of lame. It doesn't really get you there. But even believing that, if you believe that such an experience is possible, it becomes possible for you. Becomes possible for you. If you believe you're a sin-racked, miserable human being, you're going to make some changes in your life to try to be better, whatever you think better is, you know? And something's going to happen. But basically, you're going to collapse under the weight of all that anger at some point and allow the divine nature that has never not loved you to just sort of flow in. So what we're denying in our prayer work, and there's an actual step in some of the prayer work that we do, or a type of prayer work called argumentative, depending on how you frame it. You remember the 5 steps of treatment that we practice? Well, some people add a 6th and a 7th, and I think we went over this at one point. But some people, after the step called realization, where you affirm a certain thing, then they have a denial of its opposite and then a reaffirmation. Why would anybody do that? Because sometimes we bite off more than we can chew. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes in prayer we say, I am now totally, radiantly well. And a little voice in us says, no, you're not. Don't forget about this and this here, you know. I'm an incredibly loving and powerfully creative person. And something says, no, you're not, because you didn't do well in algebra, or you can't draw a straight line without a ruler, or something. You know, there's something, or here's what people were saying about you in 5th grade, and this thing. So what do we deny? This is where it gets nuanced, and you kind of thread a needle with it. We don't exactly deny the little voice that comes up. We deny that the little voice is the last word. We deny that the little voice is the infinite judgment passed down on us. The little voice, you've heard of the still small voice? This is the still annoying voice. Still irritating voice. What you want to do with this voice is you want to listen to it but not believe it. You want to listen to it but not buy in. It'd be like if somebody came up to you and right to your face told you something that you knew wasn't true. And you knew that they knew it wasn't true. Like, I don't know, it's raining outside. Well, you can clearly see it's not. You can hear it's not. You can go outside and walk around and find that it's not. And so you wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't buy in. You wouldn't put on a raincoat. You wouldn't get out an umbrella. But you'd wonder, why are they telling me this? Why do they need me to think this thing that is not so? And so you'd explore and you'd investigate with them, if they were open to it, and certainly within yourself. You would say, what is it in me that's inviting somebody to come and tell me an obviously patent untruth? Why? Why is this happening? Well, this is what we want to do with our own feeling nature. When something comes up and says that because you weren't good in algebra, or because you flunked art or something, which is boggles my mind how anybody could flunk art, because I don't care what you do, it's art, right? Might not be good art, might not follow the instructions of the class, might not be what the world thinks is good art, but it's art. It's beautiful art to you. Well, anyway, that's just my judgment on that. Clearly, I have issues around art classes, okay? Well, so what you want to do is you want to turn to that voice within yourself and say, what about this situation threatens your story of how things are? You can find a more elegant way to put it than that, but that's really what it is. Look, we argue for our limitations and they're ours. Emerson said that. We argue for, I'm no good at this, we say. I'm no good at this. And we get to be not good at this. And it also means that other people stop asking us to do the thing that we're good at because we're so quick to announce we're not good at it. And it also means that the thing that we're not good at, that other people aren't asking us to do, we really want to do, but we don't feel we can, and so there's this dynamic set up within us of conflict, this self-defeating sort of a thing. I'd really like to do this thing, but I can't because the world has judgment against me about it, and it breaks our hearts. And the world is filled with people who are walking around with broken hearts. The world is filled with people who are walking around saying, I would love to sing, I would love to paint, I would love to act, I would love to, I'd love to be somebody that has self-respect, that walks down a street and other people say, yeah, there goes so-and-so, and they look like they belong here. We're dying for this. Ernest Holmes said that people are dying for someone to tell them that they're all right. And that's so true. What's even more true is that we're longing to tell ourselves that we're all right and to believe it and to believe it. So what we deny as needed in our prayer work, actually in the words of a prayer, we deny that there is some opposing universal law to the good that we seek. Emma Hopkins says all things are seeking their good. She says, we have a lot of fun with this in class, she says even a rock is seeking its good. Even a rock. Now, you can't think of a more inanimate, sort of immobile thing probably than a rock. It just, sits there. Except in the desert in New Mexico or someplace where they have moving rocks I've seen, but it isn't the rock that moves. Anyway, the thing just sits there, and she says even that is seeking its good. On some level, it's whatever consciousness exists in the thing. We won't trip out on the rock. We'll come to the human side of it, where we know there's a lot of consciousness going on. We're all seeking our good. Everything is seeking its good in some way. And yet we feel it's separate from us. So what we're denying is that it actually is separate from us. We're saying that that's just a story that we've been told. And then we hasten to affirm. We affirm, deny as needed, and then reaffirm. We affirm a thing. What is it we're affirming? We're affirming that there's, as Emma said, good for us and we ought to have it. We're going to practice the presence instead of the absence. There's good for me and I ought to have it. What is the nature of that good? It's what makes my heart sing. It's what causes my feeling nature to really open up. That's my good. I may think it takes forms of some kind. I may have it identified as if only I had this and this and that, but not that, that would be my good. Then I'd be all set. You ever felt this way? If only I had this stuff, then I'd be all set. And you either get that stuff and you're not all set, or you don't get that stuff, you get something else. And then you realize that, you're pretty much all set with what you did get. And this is kind of Zen-like, but I say this sometimes to people about affirmative prayer. You'll either get what you want or you'll get something else. Now, I know that sounds kind of strange. You'll either get some, but sometimes the forms that we associate with our good are not the forms that really accompany our good. They're just what we've been taught to associate with our good. Does that make sense? Like take money, for example. That's a very easy example to give in a case like this, because it's inanimate. It's not involving, relational kinds of things. People think, well, if I had lots of money, all my problems would be over. Well, go ask people with lots of money where their problems went, and we think, well, if it's the great equalizer and it's the great leveler, and Dorothy Parker had something viciously wonderful to say years ago about this. She said, if you want to know what God thinks about money, look at who He gave it to, and it's like, so vast wealth doesn't solve anything. It can be corrupting and it can be this, and so, but yet in our culture, it is still the story that you need wealth and you need to manage it, and then you're good because you can pay for stuff along. Whatever other problems crop up, you can buy them off. Well, You can and you can't. But what I'm here to tell you is not an argument about, we could arm wrestle all day about the value of money or the value of friendship, for that matter, having lots and lots of people in your life versus having, 2 or 3 that really matter to you. No, what I'm saying is the feeling is the key. You want abundance, don't look for money. Look for abundance. Look for the feeling of abundance. You want love in your life, don't hunt through people, throwing them over your shoulder, not that, no, not too tall, too short, too this, too that. No, instead, are you willing to love yourself? Are you willing to be loved? Are you willing to feel, right? Very old cliche here. It says to find the person you want to spend the rest of your life with, be the person you want to spend the rest of your life with, okay? I know that can be a tall order, but it's like, yeah, get comfortable inside your own skin, because what happens is, if you're not, then you find somebody else who's not comfortable inside their own skin, and you try to share a skin, and that gets ugly and weird, and people start kind of leeching off each other, and it's like, you're my self-esteem, or you're my this, and the whole thing kind of collapses. So we get okay within ourselves. So this is what we're affirming, is that right now I have everything I need. Right now, I am everything I need. Right now, my needs and wants are easily, naturally met. These are samples of affirmations. You can sample other people's affirmations. No affirmations, to my knowledge, are trademarked. Okay? So you can use other people's, you hear somebody, and people will share these things liberally. They'll say, well, here's what I affirm to myself. We used the one a few weeks ago, Emile Coué. I think I miscredited it to Florence Shin, because she used it also, but later, is that every day and every way I'm getting better and better. That's great. It's kind of general, and that's a nuanced thing right there, is that you want to create affirmations that are general enough but still move you emotionally. If they sound like the lines in a contract, they're not really workable affirmations. Therefore, the party of the first part, having, blah, 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 page after page of this stuff, that's not really, because it's not moving you. It's not moving you. It's not pleasing you. You want to use your own words. An example of where you can find your own words? Write some poetry. Write some poetry. It doesn't have to rhyme. It doesn't have to scan. It doesn't have to follow the rules of convention. It's the words that, how do you address a beautiful day? How do you address a beautiful time in your life? How do you speak it? How do you frame it in words? Then that's your style of affirmation. That's your style of affirmation. Find words and concepts that speak to you, that move you, and then use them. And this is key. We spend a lot of time thinking about selecting the words for an affirmation, as we should. But perhaps even more important is use the thing repeatedly. Use it repeatedly. They tell you this in advertising. You want to run, we just started running ads in the local paper here, and for the center, you want to run an ad. Run the same ad repeatedly. Run the same ad as much as possible in the same place repeatedly, and it'll catch somebody's eye. Very few people the first time they see an ad are going to react, but they see it repeatedly and they think, oh, I've been meaning to look this up. And I've heard this for years out of people who drove past this place for years. Oh, yeah, I lived in the neighborhood, drove past and wondered what it was. One day I stuck my head in the door. Now here I am, And this happens everywhere. There's a restaurant in your neighborhood you've never been in, but you've wondered about it, and you see other people eating there, So you want to create in your subconscious mind a pattern of repetition of your affirmation. You may tweak it a little, but keep at it. Keep at it. Let it become a habit. Let it become a habit that you affirm. You can welcome the day through affirmation. You can be grateful at night through affirmation. When you were a little kid, were you taught to say your prayers at night? I was. It was God bless Mommy, God bless Daddy. I had this whole list of people, I had to God bless, and eventually you drop off to sleep. But, right? It was a nice habit to be in. We get older, we push that stuff away, and we say, no, the smart and sensible thing to do is lie here staring at the ceiling, resenting people, holding grudges. Now, who said what to me today? or that person this morning in traffic, you know, and then we go to sleep and we wonder why our dreams are kind of nightmarish, you know. We wonder why we wake up tired and all. It has a metabolic effect. But the thing is, again, remember to use your affirmations. Use your affirmations. And you can add some as you go, of course. Just be certain that it doesn't turn in, as I say, to a document, you know, to a long contract where stuff is just kind of and, like a kid's letter to Santa. And I want this, and I want that, and I want, you know, break it up into specific little affirmations that you use at particular times and so on. And what will happen is, well, several things. One is, things that you have affirmed, realities that you've affirmed for yourself that you wish to inhabit, you will notice suddenly one day you are inhabiting. An important point here, I feel, too, is that your good is not usually delivered to you with a big flourish. It can be, but it's usually not. It usually kind of comes into place slightly in your, you know, peripheral vision over here. It's just kind of, and you look, you do a double take, you do a classic stage double take, and you, whoa, it's here. Then you find, and this is weird, you find it's been there since before you started affirming it. It's been there since before. Why? Because you're working with a principle that doesn't follow the rules of time, much less the rules of space. It doesn't even know these things exist. That's on the human grounded level, you know. So even before, you remember the Bible passage, even before you ask, I have answered. And we're like, well, how does that happen? Well, it's quantum mechanics is how it happens, but it happens, it can happen that way. It can happen that way. And suddenly you see that your good is at hand. Here's something else that can happen. Something occurs which you had not anticipated. That's even better than what you went looking for, which is why we often use the expression in our prayer work, this or something better. This or something better. Somebody will come to you and they'll say, will you do a prayer for me? I'd like a job with XYZ Corporation as their chief of such and such, you know. And you think to yourself, well, they might not be hiring XYZ Corporation. They might already have somebody doing that work, you know. So I can't, like, shoehorn you into that, you know, and pluck out whoever's doing that, you know, because you're not a metaphysician. We got to put a metaphysician in that job. You know, that's weird and controlling. And of course, if it worked, then somebody could do that to you, and everybody'd be just going around playing this game with each other. So that or something better, that or something greater. Sometimes people will argue about this. They'll say, well, there is nothing better. Believe me, I've investigated, and this good that I say I want here, it's absolute, it's the best it can possibly get. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. Because it's going to, if you even get it, it's going to change. And it's going to be different tomorrow than it was today. And it's going to be, right? All things evolve. All things, so nothing is in stasis. Nothing is encased in glass, you know. So this or something better, this or something greater, this or something more fulfilling. We say that to ourselves. But we keep the feeling going. We keep the feeling going that, yes, it's happening. And finally, I think this is that when it takes time to occur, realize that, again, you're working with something that doesn't know time, so the only person who's keeping time is you. The watch pot never boils, right? So we stand there looking at our watch and tapping our foot, and when is my good going to show up? It's going to show up when it's ready to show up. And you want it ready. If it weren't ready, it wouldn't be fully your good, would it? It wouldn't, you know, it wouldn't be cookies, it would be dough, right? It'd be unbaked, unfinished, unsomething. You know, you want the thing ready for occupancy by you, so give it some time. People will also ask, I love this answer that a teacher, I forget who, gave. Somebody said, well, where is my good coming from? And this teacher said, it's coming from wherever it is now. Which is like no answer at all, but it's a very accurate answer. Who knows where it's coming from? It's either coming from somewhere else on the physical planet where it happens to reside at this moment, or it's being formed out of apparent thin air. It's being created as if from nothing. It's being created from stardust right now for you, that you have never had this before in the history of the human species. This particular good for you has never occurred in the form that you're calling it into because of your original spirit. And in any case, it won't matter to you, because when it occurs for you, you'll know it. And there's another biblical passage about this, about we looked at once, saw as once through a glass darkly, now we see face to face. For a long time, it was a wish or a will or a hope or a longing or a yearning or something that this good would show up. And now we see through the glass. Now we see clearly face to face. And here it is, 3 dimensions and more, standing right in front of us, this particular good that we sought. You keep at it, and this happens, and this happens, and this happens. And every time something tugs at your sleeve and it says, well, now you're pushing too far. Now you've gone too far. How happy do you really expect to be? How fulfilled and creative and empowered do you really expect to be in this life? Every time that happens, that feeling, you call up that feeling, and instead of stomping all over it, making it wrong and all of this, you say to it, who hurt you? Who hurt you and when? And what can I do to help? What can I do? What can I do here to enroll you in my vision of unfolding good? And the feeling will tell you, because it's you. It's you from a previous day. It's you from a previous year, you know? When something was going on that you made a little rule for yourself, that here's a little box that I have to stand inside of and not go beyond, okay? So by popular request today, I'm going to do a treatment. Reverend Lisa's going to do a treatment in a few minutes. I'm going to do one, and I'm going to include the step of denial. I'm going to make this up, and this goes out to the ones I love. This one goes out to anybody who wants this treatment. Okay, it's a general all-purpose sort of treatment, and I just invite you to take it and make it your own. Let's know together now. You know with me as I speak these words, and I speak them about myself in the first person and present tense because I'm the one who's doing this treatment and having this knowing, and yet I invite you to make it your own by thinking of it about yourself in the first person and present tense. As I affirm and know that there is one life, one power, one presence, one infinite ultimate something that I think of as the divine nature, the I am becoming, that I think of as God, the creator, the creative force. And because there is just one, and this one encompasses all creation, I am one with it. And because I'm one with it, I use its laws. I speak this word into its active, engaged principle. And this word becomes flesh and takes place and dwells in my experience. I call for good, my understanding of good, what good feels like to me and has become to me over time through experience. I call for love. I call for creativity. I call for balance and wellness and happiness and peace and harmony and trust, and most of all, love. For love is the ribbon on the package. It holds it all together. Holds it all together. And anything in me that resists this at any level, anything in me that says this is too much to ask or beyond that which I deserve, I embrace in unconditional love and release its opinion back into the emptiness, the void from which it came. Surrounding that feeling within me with such non-judgmental, unconditional love that it is free to heal no matter where it comes from or when it occurred in my experience, that I thought less of myself than I do in this moment. I affirm and know that there is but one spiritual law throughout all creation, and it is the law of becoming. And when things become, their opposite unbecomes. Their opposite unwinds, unspools, and trails away, leaving in its place this clear and confident knowing, this shining reality of absolute joy. For this knowing and its manifestation in form, in this moment and in all the time to come, I am so deeply grateful. I release this word now into that creative process which accepts it and runs with it and builds it out in form, and so it is.
As we come up to giving time, so either physically or mentally take your gift in your mind or your hand and just know with me, divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is.
All right, now let's go back to that deep breath that you're still holding, right? No, you've already released it. So now I'm going to encourage you to take one more nice deep breath. And as you release the breath, just let go. And step with me consciously into the divine. It is all divine all the time. As my friend Terry says, now is the holy moment. Now is always the holy moment. But we are stepping into it consciously. We are walking into that place where nothing has ever been wrong. Because nothing ever could be. And it is here that we are going to spend a moment filling up. What are we filling up with? Love, peace, harmony, joy, creativity. What is it that you want in your cup today? There is one power, one presence, one life, one love. I live that life. I am that presence. That power flows through me. And I love that love. Just as I know each and every one of you do. We are divine conduits, allowing that which is currently unseen to move into the scene. So we walk into this place, this divine fountain, and we hold up our cup of acceptance, and it is filled to overflowing. What is it that will support me this week? What is it that I get to do this week? And it flows into that cup. And it comes from an inexhaustible source. How big is my cup of acceptance? Is it a thimble? Or is it a swimming pool? Or I'll give you one better. Is it a hose that I am connecting right now so that it is always flowing into me? That power, that presence, that life is an eternal, infinite gift flowing into each and every one of us up to our willingness. And I'm knowing that our willingness is increasing as we allow the divine to flow through us. The world gets better. Our lives are smoother. The joy multiplies. the love multiplies, and we accomplish that which we set out to in ways that even astound us. We are held in the arms of love at all times. And I know this with all of the gratitude in my being. I see each and every one of you as those brightly burning lights that light up the world wherever you go. And I am grateful for a teaching that teaches me who I am. And I am grateful for this community. I am grateful for these musicians. I am grateful for our practitioners. I am grateful for our musicians. Doubly grateful for our musicians. I am grateful for our ministers. I am grateful for each and every one of you. I am grateful for this technology that allows us to send this message out into the ethers. And I relax, setting my words into the law with love. And so it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it.
I choose it.
I trust it.
I trust it.
I use it.
I use it.
And I love it.
And I love it.
And so it is.